Do you want to know what makes knowledge grow? Then everybody watch TheDeenShow. TheDeenShow.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah. Assalamu alaikum. That's that greeting of peace. Peace be unto you. We are those people, those that have come to a conscious decision that there is only one God, not three in one. God is not to be divided. He is one. We have come to that decision that we're going to worship Him alone. We're going to establish the prayer 5 times a day. We're going to fast during the month of Ramadan. We're going to pay the zakat, the poor due, and we're going to dedicate to making the hajj at least once in our life if we're physically and financially able to. How do we come to this? We use good old common sense. We use the tools that the Creator of the heavens and earth has given us. So when we've done this, now we have used this and we've come to this truth. We want other people to be able to come to the same truth, the same realization that we've come to, along with the knowing and being totally without any shadow of doubt, knowing who our Lord is, and now at the same time, knowing that He sent a messenger. And this messenger is not one who is living today. He was living 1400 years ago. And He wasn't sent for a particular time as Jesus was, as Moses was, as Abraham. We don't have their teachings. Even if we wanted to follow them, we could not. It wasn't meant for us to follow them. The messenger that is meant for us to follow today, if you're living, is the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. You don't want to just take my word for it. So we're going to have an analysis of his life. So you can be convinced, like over 1.5 billion people in the world are today. So when my next guest comes out, it's already natural that you believe in one God and you worship Him alone. You don't worship a man, a monkey, an elephant, nothing in the creation but the Creator. But now you might have some doubt. How do I know this man Muhammad was a prophet? How do I know, Eddie? Talk to me. So that's what we're going to be covering today. All we ask is that you have an open heart and open mind, and my next guest will clear up any doubts that you might have with my next guest here on The Deen Show. Be right back.
Allah, there's only one God and Muhammad is His messenger. Allah, la ilaha illallah. Allah, there's only one God and Jesus was His messenger. Allah, la ilaha illallah.
I don't know why I did that. Maybe it's just to break the ice. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaykum salam wa rahmatullah.
Peace be unto you.
Ahlan wa sahlan.
How's it going?
Everything is 100%.
Now translate. You said ahlan wa sahlan. We have a lot of non-Muslims. What'd you say?
Ahlan wa sahlan is a very nice greeting. It's an Arabic greeting. Ahl is family.
Yeah.
And sahl is easy and simple and relaxed. So when you tell someone ahlan wa sahlan, you're really saying that, you know, your family and the dealings between us and the interaction is easy and it's relaxed.
So that's what it is. I hope everybody at home is relaxed because, you know, a lot of times, you know, with the media and the hype, don't believe the hype. People are out there thinking that you need to be tense around Muslims.
That's true.
But we're striving for peace.
You know, interesting, one time it was, this was many years ago, and Halloween was on a Friday.
Yeah.
And so I was wearing my thobe and I was going to Jum'ah. There was this old lady walking her dog. She saw me. She said, "Oh, you're starting early." She thought it was my Halloween outfit.
But now, let's address that for a second. I mean, for some people, again, they see you in what's called a thobe. Is this, if you want to be a Muslim, do you have to wear this?
No, you don't have to. There's no like official Islamic attire or national attire or anything like that. You know, you can wear whatever you want to wear. You know, you can wear a thobe like this, and or you can wear jeans and a shirt or a suit and tie or whatever it is you want to wear. You know, so long as you know, it's not revealing in and of itself. There's nothing that's prohibited as in the material in itself. It doesn't resemble like women's clothing, and women don't wear anything that resembles men's clothing. Besides that, it's very lax. It's not as strict as most people might imagine it to be. You know?
Have you had anybody like give you a hard time, say, "Why are you wearing that?"
No.
Everyone else is wearing, you know, jeans and sweatshirt and this, and why are you wearing this? We're in America.
No, I mean, first of all, I don't dress like this most of the time. But when I do, I never meet anyone who is nasty, and I have to hand it to people who are very civilized and very well-mannered. One time I was at a restaurant, I was dressed like this, and a woman came to me, she said, "Are you a rabbi?" I said, "Yeah, I'm a black rabbi, you know." But otherwise, no, no problems.
So this is just now, it's comfortable, it's a modest way of dressing, but you can wear it like that, you can wear it like this, as long as you're dressing modestly.
Yeah,
Islam.
absolutely. Yes.
Okay, so we just got that covered. You see,
No
you
big
learned
deal.
something already here on the Deen Show. But the main topic here today is the genuine prophet. Is the last and final, we say the last and final message of Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him.
Absolutely.
How does one come to the realization that he is indeed a messenger from the Creator? How is that?
It's got to be easy. First of all, let's get this straight. It has to be really easy to tell if Islam is a true religion or a fake religion. And it has to be real easy to see which religion on earth is the one from Allah and which is the one from men, from devils, from con men, what have you. If I were to tell you, Eddie, I'm going to give you 10 essays. One of them is by Shakespeare. 9 are written by kindergartners. Is it going to take you a long time to determine which is?
It should be very easy,
Yeah, you're not going to be convinced. I can't see if it's this one about me and mommy playing in the park, or if it's this one about Art Hello or whatever it is. You can easily tell. Oh, this is the one that's by Shakespeare.
Simple, yeah.
And what we're trying to say is, وَلِلَّهِ الْمَثَلُ الْأَعْلَى, we don't liken Allah to His creation, but it can't be that the one true religion from Allah, that's genuinely from God, is going to look exactly and not discernible from the one that's from devils, one that's written by men or made up by men or altered by men, and I can't tell which is the one authored by Allah and which is the one authored by the devil. It can't be. Or by people. It can't be.
So you have those that are altered by man, that are by the devils. So you have those?
There were some religions that originally and genuinely came from Allah, and then people altered them, changed the books, changed the scripture. Then you have other religions that were just totally made up by some guy, and you can even trace to the history to the guy who made it up and the process that he went to. And then there are things that have been distorted here and there. So you can easily tell which one is from Allah, which isn't. It has to be like that. You know what we're going to do in this episode? It started off, I was in, this was again many years ago when I was a young man. And there was this Muslim man, he wanted to get married to a girl, and she was an atheist, right? And you can't marry an atheist. She has to be Jewish or Christian or Muslim to marry. So he said, "Can you prove to her that God exists, that Allah exists?" I said, "If she's willing to listen, inshallah, that's easy to prove." Look, it can't be hard to prove that Allah exists. It can't be. It's got to be one of the most easiest of things to prove. All right?
Yeah.
So I said, if she's willing to listen, inshallah, we can do that, God willing.
Yeah.
So basically we sat down, and through analyzing the life of the Prophet ﷺ, she was convinced that there was a creator.
By analyzing
the life of the Prophet ﷺ.
So you didn't get into something else, you went straight to
we didn't even
his
talk
prophethood.
about. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to pick your brain on this a little bit more when we come back from this break.
Let's
we'll
do
be right
it.
back on the Deen Show.
It comes to you the truth and the attribute of the one who created you, that he's one and alone running this universe, that he doesn't become born, he doesn't die, he doesn't eat and then go to the bathroom. This is not God.
You got problems here.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. Who was Jesus worshiping? Because it's recorded in the Gospels. Despite all of the other issues about the Gospels, we put those aside. We just say it's mentioned there that Jesus worshiped God.
One who protects us from hunger.
So talk to us now. Tell us, share this experience with this woman that you went, and she was an atheist, and then you went and talked to her about the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and convinced her that there is a creator. Absolutely. And that obviously after that he is a messenger.
Yes, and it's a very simple process, okay?
Yeah.
Imagine, Eddie, right now as we're sitting here, a guy walks into the studio and he says, "Hey, I'm a prophet of Allah. I was sent by God." How many questions would you need to ask him? I mean, realistically, you won't have to ask him anything because we know there's no other prophet.
Yeah.
But if you didn't know that, how many questions would you have to ask him before you could determine if he was speaking the truth or he was an imposter? Not many at all, right? Certain questions we'd ask, like for example, what is the most important message in your religion? If he doesn't say it's about worshipping Allah, then definitely we can already put a first strike against him.
Worshipping God Almighty, the Creator.
Because every one of the prophets called people to worshipping Allah alone.
Yeah.
Even you look at this in the Old Testament, and you even look at it in the New Testament. Moses said, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord," right? It's in the 10 Commandments. Jesus came and said the exact same thing. word for word, that there's only one God worthy of worship. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said the exact same things. So if someone comes in today and you tell them, what's your most important message, what's the first commandment, and it's not that, that's the first strike against him, that he's probably a liar. Another thing we might ask, okay, who is the angel that comes to you? We know that the angel that brings the message to all the prophets of Allah and the messengers is the angel Gabriel, Gabriel or Jibreel.
Yeah.
And if he tells you, well, it's another angel, his name is, Mikael, or so, then you know immediately that's another X against him. And this is one of the things, if you look at, the founder of the Mormon faith, Joseph Smith, that's the first strike against him. Because he didn't get a message from Jibreel. Who did he meet? He met, according to them, the Father and the Son came down in person. That's never happened to anybody, this honor, quote unquote. But it happens to him. So that's the first strike against him. He went outside of the mold of what the prophets of Allah went through.
So he's discredited right off the bat.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But there's another strike, actually many strikes against him, but another very clear is he was 14 when that happened. Since when does God, and according to them, both Godheads, which we don't believe that there are two Godheads, there's only one God, came to this 14-year-old kid? That immediately, that's another strike. It doesn't fit the mold of the prophets. It doesn't fit the stories of all the prophets, what they go through, being shepherds, being carpenters. This kid suddenly, sees God, even though Jesus said, no man has seen God at any time, nor heard his voice, nor seen his shape. That's a contradiction. So he has to fit the mold of a prophet. Now with the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, which means may Allah extol and send blessings of peace upon him. With the Prophet ﷺ, we have every detail of his life. The direction he combed his hair, which shoe he put on first, which shoe he took off first.
Every detail.
How he relieved himself, what side he slept on, how he put his hand when he slept. Every detail of his life is there.
Is there anyone that has more details of their life preserved? Bush, Clinton, Michael Jackson, Michael Jordan, any of their lives detailed like this man?
Nobody in the history of humanity.
That's a miracle itself, isn't it?
And no follower of any other prophet could follow them to the smallest degree as we can follow the Prophet ﷺ. So now, with all this information available to us, it would be easy for us to go and look into it and look at his actions, his sayings, his teachings, his demeanor, his behavior, his manners, and see, was this a genuine prophet, or was this some guy pretending to be a prophet? Because we have so much information. We can analyze it and come to a clear conclusion, true or false.
True.
Okay, but before we do that, there are a bunch of other things. First of all, let's assume, because there are only two options, all right? So this man, Muhammad ﷺ, 1400 years ago, came in Arabia, and either he was a genuine prophet, given a message by Allah, or he was, God forbid, an imposter, totally made it up. These are the only two options. Even if you say, no, maybe he really cared about people and made it all up for the sake of helping, still means he was not genuinely sent by Allah. He made it up. So the first thing we need to discuss, what would be the motive of this man? Why would he do that?
Like when the police, they're looking for a motive
Exactly.
behind the crime. What's the motive behind him making this claim?
I mean, that's what they look for. They look for the murder weapon, they look for the motive.
Yeah.
It doesn't work with one of the two.
Yeah.
So what's the motive? Because we need a motive, and a strong one. Because he knows, he lives in Arabia, he knows these Arabs, they fight over horses, a horse race can start a war that will go on for decades, So he knows that if he's going to attack the most beloved things to them, their idols, they're going to fight against him. So he must have a strong motive to want to face years of battle and warfare and attempted assassinations. So the motives now, and now here, anyone can put any motive they want to imagine, right? So maybe he did, this is now we're talking about the assumption or the accusation of him making it up. Why would he make it up? Maybe he wanted money, so we put that down as a motive. Maybe he wanted women. We put that down as a motive. Maybe he wanted power. Maybe he wanted fame. Maybe he was ill. He heard voices and that prompted him to do all these things. Whatever it is, and whatever, like if you're asking someone what are possible motives, whatever they say, write it down. Whatever they say, write it down. One time someone told me maybe he was from outer space. I wrote it down. And then we're going to come back to it and analyze his life, his teachings, his sayings, his manners, his mannerisms, to see, could it be that he did it for money? Could it be that he was from outer space? Whatever it is, because we can come to a clear conclusion that he was a genuine prophet by doing this analysis. So I'll give you one example. Okay, so we said maybe he pretended to be a prophet because he wanted money,
Yeah.
right? So now we have so much detail about his life. Let's analyze
So
it.
we go back to that now.
Absolutely.
All that authentic information.
There you go. I mean, it was detailed. It was written in detail. Everything that he did, how he spoke, how he walked, what he looked like physically. Now we can go back and analyze it, right? So if we accuse him of wanting money, he did it all because he wanted money.
Yeah.
Then we analyze his life. We see, first of all, what he lived in. And it was basically a room that was only 6 feet by 6 feet.
Yeah.
That had walls made of mud and palm stalks. And it had, you know, just a simple ceiling that would sometimes leak. And they had basically no furniture, just a mat and like a pillow stuffed with palm fiber and a clay pot and another broken cup, something like that.
Yeah.
So now you don't see any wealth in his life. You see his wife, Aisha, radiallahu anha, she used to say that sometimes for 2 months, there wouldn't be a fire lit in his home. So her cousin asked her, what did you eat? How did you live? She said, dates and water. Meaning you just eat dates, which are sweet, and drink water.
Yeah.
No meat, no bread, nothing. 2 months.
And this is when he could have had money.
This is when actually money was coming in,
Yeah.
but he never came into his house. It was distributed immediately.
Who was it given to?
It was given to the poor. It was given, put in the Muslim treasury, but he never used it. So much so to the point that it almost caused a divorce between him and his wives because they were asking for an increase in his stipend or his salary. And he refused. And it caused a big problem for him. And this is now a prophet who's also human and he has problems like this. But it shows you that he refused to bring any money into his home or even to give his wives. They lived a very difficult life. So no food, no meat cooked in your home for 2 months. You know, living in those small cramped quarters, if you want to call them. So every way you look at it, you don't see wealth in his life. You see his teachings, always telling people to abstain from loving the materialism, to being attached to worldly life. So this is not the teachings of someone who wanted wealth.
Yeah.
At the same time, you also see things like that he would get a lot of wealth. He would get 10,000 camels or goats or sheep or gold coins, and he would give it all away and come back home.
All to the poor.
All to the poor and come home empty-handed.
Yeah.
Who does that? Someone whose motive is money, that's not what they do. And interestingly, when he first started his message, and I think you remember this very well, when he started his message, they came to him and they said, leave this. If it's money you want, we'll give you money. If it's women you want, we'll give you women. So leave it. So if his motive was money, he would have accepted the offer.
Kind of like when you come to some of the corrupt people who are in office, the politicians, and they make the side deal with the big corporation. We'll give you this, just vote this way, do this. And that's when they crack and crumble.
So if they came to him and said, look, if he wanted money and they came and said, look, we'll give you money, he would accept this deal.
Yeah.
But something else is very interesting, Eddie, is that he was actually very rich before becoming a prophet and became poor after becoming a prophet. So that goes against the plan.
Yeah.
If he's going to pretend to be a prophet to make money,
Yeah.
he should make money, not lose his money.
Yeah.
So every way you analyze his life, you see that there was nothing about wealth or love of money.
So we got that one.
So you can X that off the list.
X that out.
So the next one, women. So you might argue, well, someone might argue, well, he wanted women, he pretended to be a prophet because of women, and there you go.
Yeah.
But every way you analyze it, you don't see the mark of a womanizer. Because first of all, when he first got married, he was 25 years old. But he married a woman who was 40 years old. She was 15 years older.
She proposed to him, right?
And she proposed to him, excellent. Now, a womanizer doesn't go for older women.
Yeah.
They go for younger women. But he married a woman that was 15 years older than him. He stayed married to her for a long period of time, for 15 years, and never married any other wife.
Yeah.
So a womanizer, again, if he is making up his own religion, he'll say that I can marry 50 or 100 or no limit. But why did he remain with one woman for 15 years who was older than him? That's not the mark of a womanizer.
Yeah. His
second marriage was to Sauda bint Zam'a. Narrations go about her age anywhere from the age 55 as high as 65 years of age. Maybe it's inaccurate, but that's how high the narrations go. So the second wife was about 50 to 50 some years old. Again, that's not how a womanizer behaves.
Yeah.
You go younger. You don't go older.
And this is his wife, not mistress.
Exactly.
Girlfriend.
This is his wife.
This is his wife.
Yes. And so every time you start to look at one of the marriages of the Prophet ﷺ, you'll find that some of them had a political, not motive, but like goal or like wisdom behind them. Some of them had social wisdoms behind them. Some of them have religious rulings that were revealed because of these marriages. Some of them were humane, like when he took Sauda radiallahu anha, who was an old woman. She had nowhere else to stay, and he obviously can't just bring her into his home. So he married her. So some of them had humane reasons behind them. So there was always a reason, and it wasn't just that when you look at it, it's not the behavior of someone who's a womanizer.
Can it also be, is it a wisdom here because we see that we have so much information on him, now the people behind the scenes are the wives. So they're narrating his life. Is this also a way now that to get more information? Because
definitely.
And that's the intimate things, the details of all his life that the man can't give his buddies, his companions. Only the women can.
Of course, and they lived with him and they saw him do everything, and so they were able to relate to us the finest details of his life. And by the way, I mean, and no matter who you look at and you analyze their life, when you look at it in detail, you start to find flaws. But we have so much detail on the intimate life of the Prophet ﷺ. So if there was a flaw, we'd be able to see it very clearly. You know. And an imposter, certain things would not work out. Like the imposter would not practice what he would preach, right? And we can expound on that a bit more if you'd like.
Let's take a break. They're signaling, and we'll be back on the Deen Show.
Allah, there's only
former bad boy, gone good boy.
I ran with an entrepreneur. I ran with an icon in the music business.
How he attained something that money couldn't buy.
Short period of time, the success of the records that I did.
He left that life.
Wasn't a country that I couldn't go to.
Lived this good life.
Wasn't a country that I couldn't go to.
The life that brought him peace.
A person couldn't identify with who I was or the songs I created.
Brothers and sisters, get ready. You're watching the Deen Show. Take it away, Eddie.
What are you waiting for? What are we waiting for right now? What are we waiting for all these people to come to Islam? What are we waiting for? What are we waiting for right now? When they're going to come? They're going to come. Allah going to bring these people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put in our hand the ability to do it. Now do your job.
Back here on the Deen Show. And we're talking about the proofs and evidences, the arguments someone can have. And we listed a few of those: money, women, power. And we knocked out the power. You were talking about the woman. Please continue on.
Yes. So we're saying that when you look at the marriages of the Prophet ﷺ, they don't fit the pattern of someone who is a womanizer. Not from age, not from duration. Because his first marriage, and the correction is that he was married to his first wife for 25 years.
25 years.
Yeah. And the womanizer basically doesn't need to stay with one woman for a long time, you know. And I think in our day and age, most people are familiar with how the womanizers operate.
Okay.
So they don't stay with one for a long time.
So you can expound on all of these. It can be a lecture on its own.
Absolutely.
Because we're almost out of time, tell us, because we have a few more that we have to knock out.
Yes.
So this is, and I'm sure anyone who's sincere, who has an open mind, humble heart, he can be like, you know what, that makes sense.
Absolutely.
So if you want to go ahead and wrap up on this one, and then we have a few more to cover.
Okay, suppose he wanted power, right? If he wanted power, he'd be demanding power constantly, right? And he would be elevating himself in status in this religion and saying, you know, like, I'm flawless, I don't make mistakes, you need to obey everything that I say. But when you look at the message of the Quran, it actually puts him in a very human depiction, you know, that he is human, that he makes mistakes, that he will die just like everyone else dies. The thing about power, suppose he wanted power, it's interesting how one time a Bedouin Arab, so like a nomadic Arab, came and he doesn't know what the Prophet looks like, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He hasn't seen photographs, there's no internet, magazines. So he comes into the mosque of the Prophet ﷺ and he has to ask this question. He has to say, which of you is Muhammad? Which is amazing. That means the Prophet ﷺ was sitting with his companions, dressed in a way like all of them were dressed, not dressed better or differently, not sitting on a throne or sitting higher than they are. And it means he was so humble and so simple that he looked just like anyone else. So he had to ask, which of you is the Prophet?
Not like some men, I mean, who are just constantly thriving for attention.
Now, when you go somewhere, just the architecture of the room will tell you who the big shot is, right?
Yes.
You can't ever walk into a king's court and ask the jester, Your Highness. It's clear who the king is. The big chair, the big cloak, the big hat, whatever it is.
Amazing.
So this is proof that he's not someone who wanted power. Even one time someone tells him, whatever Allah wills and you will. And he became angered. He said, have you made me like an equal to Allah? Say whatever Allah wills. Someone who wanted power would say yes, absolutely. You know, interestingly, when the infant son of the Prophet ﷺ passed away, it coincided with an eclipse.
Yeah.
And when the eclipse of the sun. So when the sun eclipsed, at the moment the infant of the Prophet ﷺ died, the people started to say, you see, the sun is sad at the death of the son of the Prophet ﷺ.
Yeah.
That son. Yeah. So he actually, now an imposter would take advantage of this
opportunity right
like,
there.
Absolutely, yes.
That's it.
And you should all be sad and give me some money while you're at
exactly.
it. What did he do? He says, no, these are like creations of Allah, the sun and the moon, and they don't, you know, eclipse or anything because of the death or the life of anybody.
So he shied away from it. He set things straight.
So you can see it's not someone who wanted power.
So we're out, no power.
No power. It's not. If he wanted to become famous, then you look at the Quran, because the book, the Quran, would have to be written by him.
Yeah.
So if he wanted if there was a motive, it would be reflected in his writing, right? So he would say, you know, he would elevate himself in rank. He would say, bring women to the Prophet, because that's his motive.
Yeah.
If he wanted wealth, he would write, bring wealth to the Prophet. God commands you to bring him wealth. If he wanted power, he would say, obey everything that he does blindly, you know, and so on and so forth. If he wanted fame, he would just constantly talk about himself. But interestingly, and we're running out of time, I know, Eddie, but you know, and you know this, that the name of Moses is mentioned far more than the name of Muhammad ﷺ in the Quran. The name of Jesus is mentioned more than the name of Muhammad ﷺ. So if he wanted to be famous, why is he writing about other people in his book? It's all about me, the book. So every way you look at his life, it doesn't fit the mold of someone who's an imposter, pretending to be a prophet to get some kind of worldly gain. I would like to urge people to do their own research, because everything about his life is available online, it's available on the internet, in books that you can find, and you look at it carefully. Does this look like the act of an imposter? And you'll come to the clear conclusion that it's not, inshallah.
Thank you very much for being
pleasure.
with us again. We look forward to having you back here on the Deen Show, God willing.
Inshallah.
And thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Deen Show. We hope that you got to hear some of the proofs and evidences, and anybody who comes at this with an open heart and open mind, and you're already seeking the truth within your very self, you're seeking to want to know what the purpose of life is, why you're here, and you're wanting the guidance. Because if you're not in the market, then you know what? It's not going to fit. It's not going to work. But if you are, you can see that the things that we're talking about, not only in this show, in all our other shows, are things that go with the good old common sense. And that's all we're asking you to do, to be sincere, to ask the one who created you for the guidance, and to come back here every week for another episode of The Deen Show. Don't forget to visit our blog section at TheDeenShow.com, where we also have now Volume 2 of the DVDs for Dawah, along with the podcast and audio versions of our shows. And until next time, we'll see you, God willing, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be unto you.
He created the universe. To him belong the heavens and the earth. The ever-living, he is the first. He's the owner of mercy. He sent his messengers to warn his creatures of the grave dangers of worshiping other than Allah. There is none greater than the